Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into a topic with both power and precision, finding the best compound bows for women. And, well, specifically for you. You sent us a whole bunch of articles, reviews, even expert opinions. So we're ready to break it all down.
It's like we're putting together a custom fit guide, right, to the whole world of compound bows.
Perfect if you're thinking, hey, maybe archery's for me, or maybe you're just looking to, up your game gear-wise.
Level up.
Exactly. So, even just glancing at all this stuff you sent, one thing that jumps out at me is how much archery has changed.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just this, guy thing anymore.
Right.
There's a whole wave of bows out there that are specifically designed for women. High quality stuff, too.
And what's fascinating is how much the idea of what a woman's bow even is, like that's being challenged now, right? By a lot of these sources, like the old idea that women need weaker bows, like that's out the window. It's really about understanding those little details, the specifications of a bow, and how they make a difference when you're shooting.
Okay, see, this is where it gets really interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because one of the articles you sent dives into this whole concept of draw length. And I got to be honest with you, this was like a light bulb moment for me.
Interesting.
They really hammered home how crucial it is to get the right draw length, especially for women.
Oh, absolutely. It's like it's the foundation, of your form.
Yeah.
If you think about it, you're at full draw.
Yeah.
You're about to let an arrow go.
Mm-hmm.
If your draw length is too short,
Yeah.
you're going to be struggling to anchor properly. Accuracy is going to be all over the place.
Right.
Too long. You're not using the full power of the bow.
So it's all about, finding that sweet spot, that Goldilocks zone, right? It makes me think about how some women, they talk about shoulder pain, right? Or discomfort when they shoot.
Yeah.
Could having the right draw length actually help prevent that?
Absolutely. I mean, finding a bow that fits your mechanics, that can make a huge difference in how much strain you're putting on your body. And there's one source here that actually suggests this really simple way to figure out your draw length at home.
Okay.
Called the wingspan method. Basically, you measure your arm span, like fingertip to fingertip, and then you just do a little calculation. Boom, you got your draw length. No fancy equipment needed.
Simple, effective, I love it. Okay, so we've nailed down draw length. Now, these articles, they start throwing around all this other stuff too. Axle lengths, draw weight. What are all those about?
Well, those are kind of like, think of them like tuning knobs on your bow. They affect all sorts of things. Stability, power. So
Yeah.
axle length, you're talking about the measurement from one end of the axe to the other. Basically, it's the bow's length.
So longer bows mean more stability.
You got it. Imagine holding a yardstick. Pretty stable, right? That's like your longer axle bow, maybe over 40 inches. Great for target practice where you really need that pinpoint accuracy.
Right.
But if you're picturing yourself, in the woods, moving around, you need a bit more maneuverability.
Yeah.
Shorter axle length is your friend. Something closer to 30 inches. Think yardstick versus like a ruler.
I like that. Yardstick versus a ruler. That's a great way to put it. Okay, what about draw weight? Now, I feel like that's where things get, a little more intense.
Yeah, draw weight, that's all about force, how much muscle you need to pull back that bowstring. It's measured in pounds. And finding the right draw weight, super important, especially for women.
See, I feel like there's this misconception that you have to be like super strong to be good at archery. Is that true?
Not at all. You can build up strength and stamina as you go.
Okay.
It's not about maxing out the draw weight right off the bat. It's about finding that balance, something that challenges you, but, is manageable. I was looking at one of these reviews, the S Outrage bow, and people were saying it felt too heavy for them.
Okay.
Especially if you're shooting for a while. It's like one reviewer even said it felt like it was designed for a female bodybuilder.
A female bodybuilder. Okay, I'm going to skip that one. My biceps are definitely not there yet. But, okay, seriously, how do I figure out what's right for me for draw weight?
Yeah.
Like, is there a magic number?
There's no magic number, but there are some, smart starting points. So think about your strength right now.
Yeah.
If you're new to this, starting low, focusing on good form, good technique.
Right.
No need to strain yourself. It's like starting with lighter weights at the gym.
Yeah, build up gradually.
Exactly. And also, what are your goals? Like, if you're thinking about bow hunting, yeah, you'll probably need a little more draw weight.
Right.
Make sure your arrows have that punch. But even then, it's about that sweet spot, Accuracy and control without pushing yourself too hard.
This is blowing my mind already. Like, I'm realizing this is not just about picking up a bow and shooting.
Nah.
There's a lot of strategy here. Okay, what else do we need to know? They keep throwing around these other terms. risers, cams. I'm starting to feel like I need an archery dictionary over here.
Don't worry, we'll break it down. Risers and cams. They're like the heart and soul of your bow, affecting the speed, how accurate you are, even how smooth it feels when you pull it back. Risers, you can think of that as the central part of the bow. It's what you grip.
Okay, so the riser is all about like grip and feel. What are all those different types they keep mentioning?
So you've got deflex risers. They kind of curve away from you,
Okay.
like a gently curved bow. They add stability, make it a little more forgiving if your form isn't perfect. But you might sacrifice a little speed.
Gotcha.
Then you got reflex risers. They curve towards you like they're about to spring forward.
Okay.
Those are your speed demons. They boost how fast your arrow goes.
But they might be a little trickier to control.
A little trickier.
Okay. So deflex is like the steady, reliable friend, and reflex is like the speed demon, the daredevil.
I like that.
Okay, what about these mysterious cams? They sound pretty high-tech.
Cams, they're like these wheels. They attach to the limbs of the bow. They're the engine, right? They take your pull and turn it into arrow launching power.
Interesting.
And again, just like risers, you've got different types. Single cams, they're known for being quiet, easy to use, good for beginners.
Right.
Then you got dual cams. They're all about maxing out speed, accuracy, but you might have to spend a little more time getting them tuned just right.
Right.
And then there's hybrid cams, kind of a blend of the two.
Wow, I'm seriously impressed by all the thought that goes into this. This is like a whole science.
Yes,
It's
yeah.
not just pointing and shooting. It's like engineering, physics. How do you even choose with all these different types of risers and cams?
Well, it really comes down to, what kind of shooter are you? What are you hoping to get out of this? We'll dive more into that in a bit. We'll even talk about some specific bows that might be a good fit for you. But before we get to those, there's one last spec we got to talk about. IBO speed.
Ah, yes. IBO speed. So that's the one that tells you how fast the arrow flies out of the bow, right?
That's the one.
The higher the number, the faster the arrow.
Exactly. But, and this is a big but,
Yeah.
a higher IBO speed doesn't automatically mean a better bow, especially for women.
Interesting.
Sometimes those super speedy bows, they can be less forgiving.
Right.
And the way they draw back can be a little rough on your shoulders.
So it's not all about chasing the biggest numbers. It's about, again, that balance, right? Speed, comfort, forgiveness. There's a lot to consider.
There is, and we're going to break it all down for you. Next time, we'll take a look at some actual bow reviews, and we'll even talk about how marketing, those flashy ads can play tricks on us, how they try to make us think a certain bow is best, even if it's not the right fit.
I can't wait to dive into that.
So stay tuned. This deep dive is about to get even more insightful.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and actually dive into some of these bows you sent us, like specific models. You mentioned the Diamond Archery Infinite Edge Pro, and that one seems to be getting a lot of buzz in these reviews.
Yeah, the Infinite Edge Pro, it seems like everyone's praising how adjustable it is. Like, it has a draw length range of 13 to 31 inches.
Wow.
Which means, it can basically grow with you as you get better, as you learn more.
Right.
And that's huge for someone like me who's, still figuring things out.
It's like having a bow that evolves along with you on your archery journey. One reviewer even called it a chameleon,
Oh, yeah.
because it adapts to different shooting styles. Like you can use it for target practice, you can use it for bow hunting, it can do it all. And they also raved about how smooth it draws.
Oh, speaking of smooth draws.
Yeah.
The Bowtech Eva Shockey Gen 2. That one also caught my eye.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like it's really designed with, women in mind, comfort and performance.
The Eva Shockey Gen 2. Yeah, it's named after a pretty famous hunter and archer, Eva Shockey.
Right.
And it's got some really cool features. What's really interesting is that they use this deadlock cam system.
Okay.
Makes tuning the bow super easy, even if you're not, a tech whiz.
Wait, hold on. Tuning the bow.
Yeah.
Is that like something I need to be an expert in? It sounds a little intimidating.
It's good to be aware of, but it doesn't have to be a nightmare.
Okay.
Tuning basically means making sure everything's lined up properly.
Right.
So your arrows fly straight and true.
Okay.
Think of it like, getting a wheel alignment on your car, and the deadlock system on this Eva Shockey bow, it makes that whole process a breeze.
Okay. That puts my mind at ease a little bit. I'm all about user-friendly features, definitely.
Of course.
What else stood out about this Eva Shockey bow?
One of the reviewers, actually a guy from Shields, which is like a sporting goods store, right?
Right.
He was talking about how it has this deep valley, meaning that When you pull it back all the way, it has more of a let-off feeling.
Okay.
Like the bow's kind of helping you with that weight more comfortably. So if
Yeah.
you have to hold it full draw for a long time,
Yeah.
like when you're hunting,
Right.
that can be a game changer.
That's a feature I could definitely get behind, for sure. Looking through these reviews, I noticed that most of them seem to focus on bows for like beginners or maybe intermediate archers. What about someone like Tiffany Tuttle? I think you mentioned her. She's like a competitive archer. She's got a longer draw length. And she was saying she was having trouble finding a bow that really, met her needs.
Yeah, and Tiffany's experience really brings up an important point. Your individual needs, those matter most. Just because a bow says for women on the label doesn't mean it's going to be the right fit for every woman. It's like trying to wear shoes that are the wrong size.
Totally. So what about those women who kind of fall outside those average ranges? Are they kind of stuck with fewer options?
It can be tough, but it's not impossible. Some manufacturers are starting to get it. They're realizing, hey, we need to make bows that are more adjustable, that can fit a wider range of draw lengths.
That's good to hear. So it seems like the industry is slowly but surely getting a little more inclusive.
It is.
Okay, let's talk about, maybe the elephant in the room here, marketing.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've noticed that some of these bows, they really seem to lean heavily on like how they look, flashy colors, patterns, all that stuff,
Yeah.
rather than, really focusing on the performance, like how it actually shoots.
You're right. And some of these sources were calling out this trend of just, taking a beginner bow, slapping on a pink camo pattern,
Right.
and calling it a woman's bow.
It's like they're assuming that, women are all automatically new to archery and that we care more about how it looks than, how it actually works.
Right. And that's why it's so important to, be an informed buyer,
Yeah.
do your research. Don't get swept up by all the fancy colors and the marketing jargon. Look at the specs. How does the bow actually feel in your hand, and how does it match up with what you want to do with it?
So it's about like empowering ourselves,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
With knowledge. Don't let the marketing, control our choices. It's about looking past all the superficial stuff and making a smart decision based on what really matters.
I love that. Okay, so that brings us back to a question that seems to be on a lot of people's minds. What's the best bow weight for women?
Yes. We touched on it earlier, but I'd love to like really get into the nitty-gritty. Is there a specific weight range that women should be aiming for?
It's tempting to look for that one magic number, but really it's all about finding what lets you shoot comfortably, consistently and effectively. Remember, you can build up strength over time.
So starting with a lower draw weight, it doesn't mean you're weak. It's about, getting that good technique down first and then building up from there.
Exactly. One of the articles we looked at, it was actually about common questions people have about compound bows. And it said that even experienced archers, sometimes they'll choose to shoot with a lower draw weight if they're like working on a specific technique.
Okay.
Or maybe they're coming back from an injury.
Right.
It's all about listening to your body and choosing what works for you in that moment.
It's kind of like those marathon runners who will sometimes train with lighter shoes, right? To
Yeah.
like reduce the impact on their joints.
That's a great comparison. Being strategic and adapting your gear to your needs and your goals. Okay, let's talk about another question that comes up a lot.
Yeah.
What's the difference between bows that are labeled as men's versus women's? What really sets them apart?
I've been wondering that myself. Is it really just about, colors and marketing hype?
It's a bit more nuanced than that. Historically, archery gear, it was pretty much all designed with the average man's body in mind. But as more women started getting into archery, manufacturers started realizing, hey, we got to make some changes here.
So it's about recognizing that men and women, they might have different physical characteristics that actually affect how they shoot.
Right. A big one is draw length. Men, on average, they tend to have longer arms, so they need a longer draw length.
Makes sense.
So bows that are labeled men's, they're going to have longer draw length ranges.
Okay. So I'm guessing women's bows, they probably have shorter draw length ranges.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Don't get hung up on those labels too much.
Right.
The most important thing is finding a bow that fits you,
Right.
your measurements, your shooting style, regardless of what the label says.
So prioritize individual fit over, just fitting into a marketing category.
Exactly.
It's about recognizing that, everyone's different.
Of course.
And those average measurements, they don't always tell the whole story.
Absolutely. And, besides draw length, there are other things that might be different between those so-called men's and women's bows.
Like what?
Draw weight, for example.
Okay.
Strength's relative. Anyone can build muscle, right?
Right.
But a lot of women might prefer to start with a lower draw weight
Yeah.
while they're building up their technique.
It's like picking the right weight to lift at the gym. You wouldn't start with the heaviest one right away.
Exactly. You want to start where you are,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Build up gradually.
Avoid injury. Make sure you have good form.
Exactly. And a great thing is you can always increase the draw weight later on.
Okay.
Most compound bows, they're adjustable like that.
That's great to know. Take some of the pressure off,
It does.
Feeling like I got to make the perfect decision right away.
Exactly. Are there any other differences we should talk about between, those, quote, men's and women's bows?
Yeah, I'm curious. What else is there?
Sometimes the overall size and weight of the bow might be different. Remember we talked about axle length?
Yeah.
Shorter bows, they're easier to move around with,
Oh, yeah.
right? So some bows designed for women, they might have slightly shorter axle lengths to make them easier to handle. Especially if you're, hunting from a tree stand where space is limited.
Right, right. Makes a lot of sense. It's like they're considering, how women might be shooting in different environments where agility is important.
You got it. And I think it's important to say, these are just general trends.
Right.
There's no hard and fast rule here. The most important thing, again, find a bow that fits you well,
Yeah.
feels comfortable, helps you achieve your goals. Whether it says men's or women's on the label, that doesn't matter as much.
It's really interesting, how all these sources, they keep coming back to that theme of individualization. It's like they're saying, forget the labels, find what works for you.
That's exactly it. And that kind of brings us back to Tiffany Tuttle,
Yeah.
The competitive archer who was frustrated, couldn't find a bow for her longer draw length. Her experience, it actually points to a bigger conversation that's happening in archery right now.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more. What's that conversation about?
It's about, challenging those old ideas about strength and capability, recognizing that women, we come in all shapes and sizes,
Right.
and skill levels, right?
Right.
Tiffany's struggle to find a high-performance bow that fits her, it speaks to a need for more inclusivity in how archery gear is designed.
Yeah, totally. It's like the industry's finally catching up to the fact that, women aren't all the same.
Right?
We've got different needs, different body types, different goals.
Absolutely. And it's really exciting to see that some manufacturers, they're actually listening.
Yeah.
They're expanding their draw length ranges, trying out different grip designs.
Oh.
They're making bows that can fit a wider range of people.
It's kind of like how, for a long time, a lot of sporting equipment, it was all designed for men.
Right.
And women were just expected to, figure it out, adapt. But now things are starting to change, and that's a really good thing.
It's a really positive shift. It's about, recognizing that everyone deserves access to gear that lets them perform at their best
Right.
and enjoy the sport. So it's not just about finding the best bow for women, like as a general category,
Really?
It's about finding the best bow for each individual woman,
Yeah.
recognizing her unique needs and her strength.
Well said. Okay, so as we head into the last part of our deep dive, I'm ready to explore this idea even further. Like, how do we move past those labels and those stereotypes?
That's a great question. And we'll talk about how marketing can influence, what we think a good bow even looks like,
Yeah.
and how to become more discerning consumers, making choices that are really right for us.
It's funny. We talk about finding the best bow for women, but like we've been saying, there's no one-size-fits-all answer here.
Nope. Every archer's got their own thing going on,
Their own needs, their own strengths, what they want to do with it, it's all different.
Exactly. And that's why getting those bow specs, understanding how they affect how you shoot,
Right.
that's like super important. It's like having the cheat codes,
Yeah, yeah. Like the secret decoder ring for all that technical stuff.
Exactly.
Speaking of secret decoders, remember how we were talking about marketing earlier
Yeah.
and how it can be a little tricky?
Oh, the marketing magic. Yeah. It's interesting. Going through these articles, it really struck me how much they focus on speed and power.
Yeah.
It's like every ad wants you to believe you need the fastest, most powerful bow out there. Like that's the only way to be a real archer.
I've seen those ads that make it seem like if your arrow's not practically breaking the sound barrier, you're doing something wrong.
It's classic, tap into that desire to have the best, the strongest, but they kind of forget about everything else that matters.
Right, right. Like, remember how we were saying sometimes a really high IBO speed, it comes at a price.
Yeah.
Like the draw might not be as smooth, or you might lose some accuracy.
It's like those super flashy sports cars, right?
Yeah.
They look awesome,
Yeah,
but they're not always the best for, your everyday driving.
exactly.
Yeah,
Sometimes you just need a car that's like smooth and reliable and gets you where you need to go.
that's a great way to put it. And you know what's interesting? This whole focus on speed and power, it can actually feed into some of those old gender stereotypes we were talking about.
Oh, interesting. You mean like the idea that archery is all about like brute strength
Yeah.
and that women need to prove they can handle, a super heavy bow to be taken seriously.
Yeah, exactly. It creates this pressure, like you have to fit into this mold of what an archer should be
Right.
instead of just, figuring out what works best for you.
Yeah, so it's like a double whammy, right?
Yeah.
You've got the marketing pushing this narrow definition of power,
Yeah.
and then you've got all these societal expectations on top of that.
It's a lot. That's why it's so important to, do your research, educate yourself, understand what those specs really mean, how they actually affect you when you're shooting.
Right.
And then you can make choices that are good for you, your goals,
Well,
not just what some ad is telling you.
I love that. It's about taking back control. Right?
Yeah.
Like deciding for yourself what powerful even means in archery.
Exactly. And you know what's really cool? There's definitely a shift happening.
Oh, yeah.
More and more women are like ditching those old stereotypes.
Right.
They're embracing their own strengths, finding bows that work for them, whatever their style is.
It's like that ripple effect.
Yeah.
It starts with something as simple as choosing a bow,
Yeah,
but it really speaks to something bigger.
right.
Women embracing their power, challenging those old limitations.
You said it perfectly. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a kind of a thought-provoking question.
Okay, hit me. I'm ready.
We've talked about all these advancements, right? How bows are being designed specifically for women.
Yeah.
But what if, instead of focusing on separate categories for men and women, the industry went for a more, inclusive approach to design?
What do you mean by inclusive?
Imagine bows that are designed with, way more adjustability built in.
Okay.
Draw lengths, draw weights, all the features, so it can fit a wider range of archers.
Right.
Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman.
Yeah. Like basically saying, hey, we get it. Bodies come in all shapes and sizes.
Exactly.
And we're going to make gear that works for everyone.
You got it. Break down those old categories. Let everyone find a bow that truly fits. Designed for humans, not for men or women.
It's an amazing thought.
Mm.
Like archery, that's truly for everyone, no matter your body type or your gender, anything.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
Archery for everyone.
It makes you wonder, could that be the future of archery equipment?
I hope so.
That's a really inspiring thought to end on.
I think so too.
It's great to know there are people out there working to make archery more welcoming, more inclusive.
For sure. And remember, you've learned so much from this deep dive.
I have.
You understand those specs, you know how to spot those marketing tricks, and you're ready to make choices that are right for you.
I feel so much more confident now and excited, to actually start doing this. Thank you so much for walking me through all this.
My pleasure. It was fun. Now go out there, embrace the challenge,
Yes.
and let those arrows fly.
Awesome.